Welcome to another edition of the Ultimate Weigh-In Show. I'm your host, Manpreet, aka MMA Lock of the Night, and your boy on Twitter at MMALOT. And this week, we are going over a slightly top-heavy UFC 270 card, headlined by the heavyweight title strap between Francis Ngannou and Cyril Gane. A little bit of bad blood / friendly banter / whatever you want to call it. If you guys saw that press conference, that was one of the weirdest press conferences I think I've ever seen. And then obviously in the co-main event, we have the smallest weight class in the men's division, the 125-pound division. Brandon Moreno defending the title that he snatched from Davison Figueiredo last year. And they're going to throw down for the third time. Hopefully, for our entertainment's sake, it's closer to the first fight than the second fight, but I'm very much looking forward to seeing how that goes down, especially considering all the polarizing opinions that we have on both sides. Before we continue the show, though, I do want to give a special thank you, special thanks, special appreciation for everybody that followed me and Cody on over to the All-Star for yesterday's Propping You Up show. I've seen their subscriber numbers go through the roof. We appreciate everybody that followed through and subscribed with them as well, showed them that me and Cody can make an impact, especially when we do that Propping You Up show, and all the likes, all the loves, all the comment. You guys absolutely killed it. I could not be more thankful. So thank you guys for that. And remember, every pay-per-view Propping You Up episode is going to be over there on the All-Star with me and Cody. Every fight night Propping You Up show with me and John Sargarian, we're going to be doing that still on my channel over here. But again, the future of that is still TBD, depending on how the success of the pay-per-view episodes go. So again, appreciate everybody following us over there. And lastly, the audio versions of all of those podcasts, pay-per-view or fight night, will still be on my MMA Lock of the Night stream. So if you are Team Podcast, don't worry about it. It's not going anywhere. All right. Like I said, we are going over UFC 270, and I did have a pretty decent guest that I was waiting to announce for you guys. Unfortunately, they had to pull out last minute, but luckily, I got a great group of guys around me, and I'm so thankful and so blessed to have a great community of friends here in the MMA Twitter sphere and MMA betting and prediction sphere. And luckily, we're able to plug the holes here with one of the best guys that are out there. Yesterday we had Cody, so why not bring in the other half of the Dogger Pass podcast? And I think he has a little friend that he brought along with him too. Welcome to my brother Paul Shaughnessy, and apparently Hasbullah chilling in the background. What's going on, Paul?
Yeah, two goats, one frame right here. No, I'm not the GOAT. Hasbullah obviously is the GOAT. That's the I've been sitting on this thing for a while. We've got a new studio for Mayo Media Network that should be up. I mean, I've been saying this for a while. It's like in a couple weeks type of thing. We're just putting the finishing touches on it. That will be a fixture of the new studio. So I figured, I don't know, I wanted to dress up. This is literally just my couch. This is not like a studio. I just thought if I'm going to come UFC 270, heavyweight title, gotta dress up the couch a little bit for Manpreet here.
I absolutely appreciate it. And again, you don't need any of the lights and the bells and the whistles or anything like that. You put Hasbullah anywhere and that guy's making money or turning heads some way, somehow. So I appreciate you taking that extra bit of effort to put him there. But let's just get your quick thoughts on UFC 270, right? We lost 2 fights this morning. Rodolfo Vieira can't make it to the scale. Apparently it's not COVID or weight cutting related. It's hard to believe that considering how much weight cutting this guy does. And then obviously the other big stinker was finding out that Ilia Topuria also, due to medical conditions, was not able to continue cutting weight. That fight with Charles Jourdain, who did make that 145-pound weight limit, even without having to step on the scale like a true professional. That fight scrapped too. What are your thoughts about those 2 cancellations from this morning?
Well, let's start with Topuria. I mean, that's just karma. Bad karma.
Right? Rata.
I think what he's trying to do, because if you look at the featherweight division, you have Max Holloway. He's been a fixture of that division for so many years. One of the nicest guys on the roster, maybe outside of Brandon Moreno, who seems incredibly nice as well. Volk is the champion. He's a nice guy. There's no Connor anymore in the division. They kind of need the bad guy. And it seems like Topuria is trying to fit that bill. But I don't know. In the times that we're in right now, someone drops out with COVID. I'm sure Movsar Evloev would prefer to have not been in this situation and would want to have fought. it was a big spot, a big opportunity for both of them to really put themselves on the map, put themselves in like that top 5 contender. Their next fight after this fight probably would have been someone like, at least top 7, I would imagine. And oh man, talk about it coming back to bite him in the ass. As for Rodolfo, I have no idea what happened with him. He's struggled with the weight cut multiple times before, and I was kind of waiting on that one before I really made a decision. I think I liked Rodolfo. He's just like, his takedowns are pretty solid, and when he gets it to the ground, he's obviously as dangerous as anybody in the world. Who knows what happened with him, but it's a real bummer because and it's happened like the last couple of weeks. Is like these cards, they definitely, the UFC had intentions to make really solid cards here. And everything's kind of fallen off at the seams. But we're used to it. We're almost 2 years into this pandemic now. You just got to learn and adapt and move forward.
At least it's not as bad as last week, right? Last week it felt like, I forgot who it was. It was Gabriel Benitez was like the first one that fell off. And then there was just a domino effect of all these other fighters falling off. And it felt like centuries since Benitez had pulled out of his fight, considering how much had happened since he pulled out. But so if we're only losing 2 fights for this card, I'm okay with that, all right? I get it. Again, the main card is not as sexy anymore by losing that Rodolfo Vieira fight. And then obviously the prelims take a hit with the Topuria fight being gone. But we're still getting the heavyweight strap. We're still getting Brandon Moreno and Figueiredo. When it was initially announced for the 3rd time, my interest level wasn't really that high. But as the fight is starting to get closer, honestly, I'm having it like neck and neck in between the main event and this fight, especially with what Figgy's been doing, the press conference and just dressing up as the villain, the James Bond villain, as people call him and all that. Do you have a preference in terms of which fight you're kind of more interested in, the main event or a co-main event here?
I've been like a Francis Ngannou nut hugger supporter since day one. And I've always told myself, I'm like, this guy, he just has the combination of power and speed, like unlike anybody that we've ever seen with 4-ounce gloves on. So I always get overly excited every single time the guy is in there. It's obviously been a while since the Stipe fight, and there's obviously all the other dramas and stuff. And who knows what's entirely true with all of that stuff too. I think there could be a little like UFC finagling where it's like, these guys aren't the most interesting. So like, let's set this little narrative. Cause like I saw that Francis is like the head of this, the NFT rollout. Like he's
oh yeah.
It's like, do you think the UFC would have put him in that position if he was, if they were looking to get rid of him after Saturday night? I don't think so. So I think there could be a little, jockeying from the promotion standpoint to kind of add a little element of something to this fight. But I mean, it's heavyweight championship of the world. I love both of these guys. But I've caught some people have said that we're going to have a little bit of a debate.
I saw that too. I can't wait to get to the main event here. So we'll save that for later in the show. Exactly. We'll see how it goes. All right, let's get into the actual breakdowns here. We got about 11 fights. We did have 13 fights. Now we have 11 fights to get through. So let's start it off with our fellow Canadian Jasudavicius going up against Kay Hansen. In terms of odds, we're looking at minus 235 for Hansen, plus 190 the return on Jasudavicius. I'm a bit of a Jasudavicius believer. I mean, I feel like this minus 200 line or a plus 190-ish line is a bit of a spit in the face to what her talent and what she can actually bring to the table. Kay Hansen always seems to get a little bit of extra love from the public, right? She was a pretty decent favorite over Jinyu Fry in her UFC debut. She was a little bit of a favorite in that Corey McKenna fight, which I still believe she won. I mean, I think that judge was, or those judges were smoking a little bit something too much. And now this one here against Jasmine, even though she's coming off the Contender Series, and there seems to be that narrative out there that people love to fade these Contender Series debutantes, I think Jasudavicius has a decent skill set she brings to the table. Not to mention a 5-inch height advantage, a 5-inch reach advantage, and say what you want about her ability to establish that reach advantage. I think the strength is actually what's going to come into play here in terms of being able to control the fight in the clinch position, especially in the takedowns. And I think that Jasmine could end up on top. My hesitancy also is when it does get to the ground, I will say Kay Hansen is the better jiu-jitsu player, and I'm hoping it's not one of those women's MMA armbar from guard type of situations that pulls off here. But I had to take a small shot on Jasudavicius around plus 205. I thought the line was too wide. I think she's live in this spot. And then on the feet, last thing about this, on the feet, I do think she's a little bit better. She's more aggressive in my opinion, and I think she lands the better strikes on the feet. So closer to a pick'em line in my opinion, which is why I got to go with the dog here. And I actually believe she is going to win this fight. So I'm going Jasudavicius decision. What do you like here?
I actually went on the other side, but I did not touch that money line, minus 225. I think best case scenario, it's about right. There may be value on the underdog in this spot. What I didn't like about what I saw from Jasudavicius in her, I'm going to call it Double J. It's just too much of a mouthful.
Jasmine.
What I didn't like from Double J in her Contender Series fight. One, she really slowed down in round 3 against Pilastri, and 2, she definitely has the 5-inch reach advantage here and all of that stuff, but there just wasn't from her jab, there just wasn't any pop. I feel like Kay Hansen's gonna, if she fights a smart game plan, she's gonna fight through those shots. Those shots are not gonna keep her off of her. If she gets this fight to the mat, I think she's a significantly better grappler. So I scooped up some Hansen buy sub plus 450 the other day. I saw 5 dimes opened it at plus 715. For reasons I don't even have to get into, I'm not able to bet there anymore.
Yeah.
But and I don't have that account funded. But that would have been a nice little grab. Plus 450, I thought was a decent little spot. So I've got a small wager on Hansen by sub. But it's not easy, and I usually don't like, if I'm thinking along the lines of we need to get this to the mat, well, dealing with a 115-pounder going up to 125 pounds to take on a larger woman, then she's got to take her down and control her. It's not exactly like I don't love the bet. It's just a shot that I felt like I had to take. I think that the deeper that this gets, Double J will slow down a little bit. Hopefully we get to the mat and sub her out. But yeah, not a spot that I'm not going to be shocked if she doesn't pull off the sub at plus 450 for me.
Well, Hansen has definitely gotten the 3rd round submission finish in her UFC debut against Jinyu Fry. So it is live, and I have acknowledged, obviously, that she's the better jiu-jitsu player. So I'm excited to see how that fight plays out. All right, let's keep this thing moving along. We got another women's scrap coming up here. Vanessa Demopoulos going up against Silvana Gomez Juarez in terms of odds, minus 140 on Demopoulos and plus 120 on Juarez. Now, the weigh-in, it seemed like Demopoulos was a little bit I don't know what it was. She came out sweating. She came out pretty nice and sweaty to hop onto the scale and make the weight. But then afterwards, as she made the weight, she was relieved. She was happy. She's trotting all over the stage and all that stuff. So maybe I'm just reading into the weigh-in a little bit too much. I don't think it's going to have too much of an effect on the fight. Let me just say that. But this is such a weird fight, a binary fight in terms of Demopoulos should drag this fight to the ground, go for a submission. If she just watched that Lupito Godinez fight, she should have the skill set to replicate that. My question mark, though, is does she have the wrestling that Godinez has? And I'm not completely sold that she does. I think she's going to struggle to get this fight to the ground. Juarez, although she did get submitted, 2 or 3 minutes into that fight with Godinez, she showed some decent things in terms of being able to get back to her feet and making it a little bit tougher for Godinez to actually get the takedown. Ultimately, she does get the takedown. But if she shows that type of resistance against a girl like Demopoulos, I think she could stop the takedowns of Demopoulos. And then Demopoulos, more often than not, when she can't get the takedown, it seems like she settles with striking. And I feel like if both of these women go out there and strike, Juarez will likely have the advantage here. Maybe not with the output, but I think she's has the more impactful shots, the more devastating blows. And I think that's what the judges will see in the spot. With all that said, I want none of my money on this fight. I am taking Juarez. I'm taking her plus 120. If I'm taking a prop, it's going to be the decision side as well. I just can't bet Demopoulos. Not even at minus 140, dog. I want none of that. So I got Juarez here taking the plus money shot. If I were to take the bet, how do you feel about this one?
Pretty similarly to you. Yeah. This is the fight that puts the pass in Fight Pass. And yeah, Demopoulos, she's got a decent jiu-jitsu game, as you were alluding to.
Yeah.
Not much of a wrestling game. It's frankly, she trains with Dern and who else?
So actually, she used to. She actually did the majority of the training camp down in Arizona. Shout out to my guy Brandon Olivas and Santiago DeFranco, one of the coaches over there at Fight Ready. He has his own gym called Siege MMA, and that's where she was training. Training. She didn't really have many training partners, to be honest. At Siege, I think the main guy that trains out there is the guy that just beat Makwan Amirkhani, the Hawaiian. I can't remember his name, but that's like really the only guy out of Siege MMA. But she has trained with Dern in the past, like you're saying. Black House, she used to be up there, but now she's down in Arizona. From
maybe. Well, that takes away my narrative there because I haven't been impressed by very much that's been coming out of that gym for a while now.
Yeah.
And Juarez was putting in time with Moreno, I believe, coming into this camp. Maybe they've put in a hard camp. She looked pretty good on the scales.
Yeah.
Not a fight that I want to put any money on, to be perfectly honest. But it could be some live opportunities if you can see that, Demopoulos 100% can't get the takedowns. Maybe it would be worth a shot on Gomez Juarez, but we'll see how it shakes out. Probably just a fight I'll be paying attention to live because I expect us to at least see a round or two between these two.
You got to give me a pick. Who you got here?
I'm going to go with Gomez Juarez as well.
Gomez Juarez? All right, perfect. All right, let's keep this thing moving along here. We got the steamroller Matt Frevola taking on Valdez in terms of odds, -120 for the steamroller, +170 the return on Valdez. I already got to play on this fight. If it wasn't for the durability issues and the chin issues of Matt Frevola, 2 of his 3 losses coming via knockouts, I'd have way more confidence in him, and I'd probably take that money line at -200 because I think skill for skill, he blows this cat out of the water, but I just can't trust that chin or that durability. So what I ended up opting for is the under 2.5, which I got just around even money. I think either one of these guys gets a finish. Gennaro Valdez beating up on tomato cans on the regional scene, guys that are just falling over and kind of just giving him that top position, and he's able to get the rear naked choke in those spots. And then on the flip side with the Frevola, every guy he's faced has been a tough competitor pretty much, right? Terrence McKinney, yeah, he might be a early KO or bust kind of guy, but he got the early KO in that spot. Luis Pena, Lando Venata, Arman Sarukian, say what you want about that fight, but he made that way more competitive than the odds had indicated that fight was going to go. So he may have got swept on the cards and all that, but the guy put up a damn good fight. I think that Frevola out wrestles this guy almost immediately, gets this thing to the ground, and eventually finds a submission in the first or second round. Mm-hmm. I like the under 2.5. I like steamroller. I just wish I could trust the chin a little more. Steamroller is the pick. Under's the bet. What do you like here?
Haven't made the bet yet. It's on my my little list of bets here, or potential bets, and it just says Frevola submission with question marks around. I've been considering it all week, and I think that is the path of least resistance for him. I think what we saw from Valdez is at least he looks very, very durable. Obviously, he's 10-0. That Dana White Contender Series fight.
Oh my god!
Not like that first round, and his opponent showed up without a mouthpiece, without a jock on, looked completely out of sorts, but it got real dicey he went off at some absurd numbers.
-1100, I think it was.
-1100, whatever. Just it was insane, the amount of steam that came in on him. Probably because nobody knew anything about the guy from Alaska FC.
Exactly.
And everyone knew that, okay, well, this guy's at least friends with Brandon Moreno. And that's sometimes all it really takes on these Contender Series fights is a few big name people in our industry make the bet on it. Everyone's just kind of blind tailing, and it gets steamed out of proportion. But I did not like for 1 second what I saw from Gennaro Valdez whatsoever. It was really sloppy. He seemed to run out of gas at the end of round 1. It almost looked like his opponent was more tired or was less tired than him. And, he ended up dropping his mouthpiece again, the Patrick White. Ended up dropping his mouthpiece again and got and then it was a finish. But it was a very, very entertaining fight, but not neither one of those guys, from what I saw, really deserved to get a UFC contract. I think the only reason why Valdez is on this card is because he's Moreno's buddy. Frevola And then I think at plus money where you got your action in is a great play because that kind of covers you from both angles. That Frevola's biggest question mark has been his durability. Is he able to take the punch? I'll probably end up. I see DraftKings Sportsbook has a we can't bet it up here in Canada, but there's other books that basically steal their lines. There's a plus 400 out there for Frevola by sub that I'll probably take a little sprinkle on because I think that is the path of least resistance, and I think for a guy who's coming off of probably a pretty embarrassing first round knockout loss to Terrence McKinney, I think he's going to try to get himself out of any sort of danger as early and as often as possible as he can in this fight. So Frevola by sub is how I see this one shaking out.
I like it as well. Plus 400, like you said, on Frevola sub. And then on the flip side, if you are liking the Valdez side, plus 330, plus 400, certain spots I'm seeing for him to win by KO. I think that's the spot that you're going to have to go with if you like that side. All right, let's keep this moving along. We got Jack Della Maddalena going up against Pete Rodriguez. In terms of odds, we got minus 335 for Maddalena and plus 260 the return on Pete Rodriguez. Now, Pete Rodriguez stepping in on short notice for Juarez. Alves, talk about a completely different change in level of expertise and level of opponent here. Pete Rodriguez 4-0 in his professional MMA career, literally just deading dudes as soon as he touches them, but a lot of those guys seem like absolute tomato cans. I'm not sure if you saw that fight with that Guzman guy where he flying kneed him and then just hammer fisted the back of his head 75 times, and then the ref said nothing about the hammer fist. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, guys, like at least warn him or something. And then even the Guzman guy's like holding the back of his head. He's like, what? And nobody's even paying any attention to him. They're like, we got the dub for Pete. Let's move on. But yeah, that's Pete's game, man. But if you go back and watch some of his regional tape, man, it kind of looks ugly. Like when he doesn't get that knockout, it gets very ugly for him. People are able to grapple him, get him to the ground and kind of control him there. And I feel as though that's what Jack is going to look to do here. At times, he's been a little bit of a slow starter, but I think once he's able to either get this fight to the ground or take a couple of the big shots from Pete and keep chugging, I think that Pete's going to start slowing down, and I think he's going to have trouble dealing with a very impressive Jack Della Maddalena, man. I was really impressed with what I saw on his Contender Series tape, and I really liked watching his regional tape as well, man. It was very fun. Like he was not in any boring fights, likes to move forward, likes to throw hands, combinations, has good wrestling, has good jiu-jitsu. I think this kid could turn into something with a little bit more grooming. And I think this Pete Rodriguez fight is one of those, like, just don't get knocked out and you run through this guy. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen. So I've played this fight a couple ways. I've taken the under 1.5 because I feel like Jack could, weather the first couple minutes here and then start to take over at the ending of the first round or early second round. I've also thrown in the fight doesn't go to decision into a couple parlays. I know it's a little bit juiced at this point in time, but I think it's a damn good parlay piece as I don't see this fight going the full 15 minutes. And Jack, man, Jack inside the distance. I know it's at favorite money at this point in time, but I think this guy runs through him, man. Like it is almost a, again, I don't want to diss your boy Francis Ngannou, but it's kind of like that archetype of a fight where like just stay away from the big bomb and you should be okay. And I feel like that's what Jack is going to be able to do in this spot. And I like Jack. I like Jack a lot, but I like the violence bet the most in this spot. What are you liking here?
I mean, it's the Pete Rodriguez is like the ultimate wild card. It's like we don't really know what this guy can do outside of the first round, and he just looks like a real like green sloppy brawler. Like I don't know if he has much of a ground game whatsoever. At least Maddalena in his fight with Lusa. He got the fight to the mat a bit. He showed some grappling chops. I just seem to be drawn to a whole bunch of submission props this week. But him by sub is like plus 700 out there.
Take that.
I think that Maddalena has some decent stand up. He was definitely getting hit with some shots. It was a fun, competitive, hard fight with Lusa, but he won pretty cleanly, or pretty clearly. I think Maddalena gets the job done. It's if you were going to bet Rodriguez, it's 100% you would just bet him by knockout. Like we don't know anything about this guy. He hasn't fought anybody of any sort of note. It's kind of like, where did they even find this guy? I have no idea. But I think the submission prop, because he did show some grappling chops and some willingness to get the fight to the mat against Lusa. That could be a decent little angle on this fight. Obviously, yeah, the money line minus 335 is the best on the market right now. It's probably parlayable, but yeah, Pete Rodriguez is like the ultimate wild card. No idea what to really expect from this guy long term. I'm not expecting very much. I'm expecting, comes in 4-0, leaves 4-2, 4-3.
Yeah. I'm right in that line of thinking as well.
They'll use them as a bouncing ball for like other prospects that they're looking to prop up. But I mean, I guess we'll find out on Saturday night. But yeah, Maddalena should roll inside the distance, like minus 175 right now. That's probably decent.
Yeah.
And then the sub prop is interesting, but like that's not really Maddalena's game, right? He's not.
He has it though. He has it up his sleeve.
But yeah, he's more of like a technical striker.
Yeah.
Has some really nice combinations in and out of the pocket. That is probably more likely. But if he wants to take the path of least resistance, there really isn't any reason to think that Rodriguez is some sort of like superhero on the ground, because he's never tried to take it there anyway.
Yeah. If you do like Pete and you like trends, Rodriguez round 1 plus 750. Just saying. But I don't know anybody that likes Rodriguez, to be honest. All right, let's keep. Yeah,
I don't think a single soul has bet Pete Rodriguez this week.
And the line kind of reflects that, doesn't it? All right.
Yep.
Let's move on to the next fight here. Another Contender Series alum making his debut. We got Tony Gravely going up against Simon Oliveira. In terms of odds, we're currently looking at minus 250 for Gravely, plus 200 on Oliveira. Oliveira, I will say, he was the one that looked the sketchiest on the scale this morning, but the guy still made the weight, no issues. But he seems like a guy that cuts a ton of weight to get to that weight class. So yeah, of course he's going to look a little bit drained, but we'll see how it plans out tomorrow when he steps inside the cage. In terms of this fight, Gravely has all the skill sets to be, a top 5 guy. Great wrestling game, good pressure, decent pace. It's just his cardio sometimes kind of fails him, right? That's where Nate Maness is able to find that opening, knock him out. A couple other fights escaping me right now where he loses them in the second or third round as his productivity starts to drop off. And I feel like you can't have that type of style against a guy like Oliveira, who, say what you want about his regional level of competition. And when he did take a step up, specifically against Aris Farias in the ACA or ACB, I think it was, he got grounded out that entire fight. Excuse me. And just got controlled for the entire 50 minutes. But the difference, in my opinion, between Farias and Gravely is that Farias is a high-level jiu-jitsu guy. Like, he had the chops to keep the guy on the ground. Sure, Gravely has the ability to ground this fight, but how good is he going to be in terms of keeping Oliveira in that position or even working to finish him in this spot? I think we see Gravely, have success early here and then start to drop off a little later and give up a guillotine choke to my guy Simon Oliveira here, who has 6 guillotine choke wins on his record. I think he finds himself another one here from a desperation takedown from Tony Gravely. But instead of playing the money line on Simon here, I actually went with the under 2.5 in this spot because I do think that Gravely has some finishing capabilities. The under is currently sitting around plus 100. I got in around plus 115. So some action definitely coming in on it. Gravely does like to work for the finish. I know Oliveira hasn't been finished, but I think that this is the type of guy that could push him to that extent. But if he doesn't get the finish, that's where I think that Simon's finishing opportunity starts to arise, and I think he capitalizes on it. So the pick is Oliveira. No bet on him at plus 200. I would rather just take the under 2.5 and cover both outcomes, as I think whoever wins will likely get a finish in the spot. How do you like the spot?
I actually bet Gravely by knockout because watching the Contender Series, I made note of it. When I was watching that, I tweeted about it, and I don't know if he was just doing it because he's on Contender Series and he's trying to get a contract, but like the amount of reckless spinning back fists this guy threw, was just alarming. I don't know if Tony Gravely is the guy to do it. But he does definitely have some power in his hands. That Nate Maness fight, if there's 10 more seconds at the end of round 1 there, he's getting the knockout victory in that spot. Like Maness was on a different planet. And as Cody on Dogger Pass this week pointed out to me, it's like his corner like picked him up and like carried over the stool, which is not supposed to happen either. And obviously comes back, gets the second round finish. I am worried about Gravely gassing later in the fight. That's why I went with the KO prop, a plus 335. But I feel like this is going to be a recurring thing until it hits for me, and maybe I lose multiple times in a row. But or maybe he doesn't throw a single spinning back fist this time. He gets the win. He wins the bet for you, and you know then maybe that'll save me some money long term. But if he continues doing the reckless spinning back fists that I saw, somebody with decent power who can just stand and wait for him to overextend on those is going to send him into oblivion. So I know he hasn't been finished, but I took the shot on Gravely plus 335 by knockout.
I like it. Again, I'm on the under, so as long as somebody gets a finish, I'll be happy, and I'll be a little extra happy just so you're able to cash that ticket as well. Although I will say Oliveira by submission is sitting around plus 500, plus 550 as well for anybody interested in that angle too. All right, let's move on to the next fight here. I believe it is now the prelim headliner. We got our guy Raoni Barcelos finally making his way back to the cage, going up against UFC debutant Victor Henry. In terms of odds, we currently are sitting with minus 510 now on our guy Raoni Barcelos, plus 375 on Victor Henry. Now, Victor Henry is not one of those slouches they just picked up off the side of the road to be like, hey, COVID era, we need fighters. Hop in there with a killer like Raoni Barcelos. Victor Henry has been around the block. The guy's fought all over the world, has a tremendous amount of experience, and finally getting the opportunity I thought should have come a long time ago. But talk about a very tough first fight. Raoni motherfucking Barcelos. Shades of prime Jose Aldo at times when he's getting his combinations off and his leg kicks off. Has a great wrestling game as well. Has a solid jiu-jitsu game. I feel like he can just put it all together here and just wipe out Victor Henry over 15 minutes. Victor, you know, he has been submitted a couple times, and that is absolutely an option here for Raoni if he actually looks to pursue that. But there has been times where he kind of just allows the fight to just play out on the feet. And sometimes he's ahead on the scorecards there, but you know, he opts not to take the path of least resistance at times, and that is a little bit of a concern. But Barcelos by sub sitting at plus 350, I ultimately think he goes out there and just beats him over 15 minutes, outstrikes him, out-wrestles him, out-scrambles him, and gets the better of him at plus 140 for Barcelos to win by decision. I like that spot. Did I parlay Barcelos earlier when he was around that minus 330, 340 streams? Hell yeah, of course I did. But when he's getting closer to minus 500, minus 600, then you have to start thinking a little bit whether it's worth it at that point. But I still like Barcelos in here. I've been super high on him. I know he hit a bump in the road last time against Timur Valiev, where it seemed like, you know, he let the fight pass him by. Timur, you know, did a great job in terms of moving, kind of just throwing more volume than Barcelos. Barcelos finally picks it up in the second round, even drops him or rocks him, I believe, but then lets the foot off the gas again in the third round and kind of lets the fight slip through his fingers. But hopefully that woke him up, and now he can go in there against a guy like Victor Henry, which should be a squash match, and he goes out there and does exactly that. So I'm going Barcelos. I'll give Victor his due. The guy will get a couple wins, but I think it won't be happening tomorrow night. Who do you like in this spot?
Yeah, Barcelos is a super underrated. Well, I guess the books are wise to it now. Super underrated guy. He's got all of the skills, you know, in spades. His problem is that he's fighting at bantamweight. He's already 34 years old. It's like he's running out of track at this point. It's a young man's game at 135 pounds for sure. I echo a lot of the same sentiments as you. We got done dirty on this one because, you know, the original opener from the first time this fight was booked was like minus 285. And then every single time they've rebooked it now, the books just keep creeping up and up. And now it's at minus 500. I mean, my boy Cody Safdie will probably have Raoni top ticket material, I would imagine, on his parlays. But Not a way that I typically attack these things. I think your buy sub prop is not a bad look, or that interest in that. But yeah, I think Rowney wins. But yeah, the price is kind of getting away from me at this point. So and it hurt me a bit. I was heavy on him against Timur Valiev.
Oh,
I thought that fight was a draw, and it should have clearly
10-8
been a
round
draw.
2. Yeah,
Yeah,
I could see that.
I thought it was a 10-8 round 2, but either way, he was a chalk favorite. You don't want to be putting your money in fights that are that close in those types of situations. So I don't have anything on it this week. Rowney hurt or broke my heart last time out, but I think he gets the dub here.
All right. I love it. I love it. All right. That is the headliner for the prelims there. That brings us on over to the main card. And I do want to shout out the 150 live viewers that we currently have. Shout out to you guys for joining us on this Friday evening. Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe before you guys get on out of here after we finish the main card. And show my guy Paul some love as well. You guys can follow him on Twitter right there. You see it under his face there at Paul Shag on Twitter. And then obviously you guys know him from the Dogger Pass podcast. Make sure you guys go support those guys over there if you don't already. Him and Cody absolutely killing it. If I'm not mistaken, you can correct me on this. You guys were like one of the first 5 set of people to actually start doing this type of content, right? Like you guys were one of the OGs from back in the day that said, I want to do a betting show on YouTube or some shit. I threw it out there, right?
I think like MMA analysis, they were doing their show back then as well. But and Luca Fury was doing stuff on Sherdog Radio Network. But yeah, me and Cody went to college together.
Yep.
And everybody else would get together. Like we went to like a sports media school. Everybody else would get together, and in radio roundtables, they would talk about, what are the Leafs up to this week, and yada yada, all that. Same jibber jabber that you see on Canadian television incessantly. It doesn't stop. And me and Cody would always just break down the UFC card. So there's actually a bunch of like dark episodes that never really saw the light of day. I don't know. We don't even have copies of them.
That would have been great. Could you imagine?
Yeah, I bet
drop
you
them
they're
for fun.
horrible. And like back then, it's like we were broke students, so it's like my bets were like $5. Like but yeah, so we did that. We thought we had a pretty good rapport. We started working in a fight network. We were both interns at the same time there, and they started up this fantasy sports network, and they were doing gambling content. And Cody thought it would be a good idea to, to start doing a podcast breaking down every single card. And I mean, that's like nearly 9 years ago now. So we've been after it for a while. Yeah, it's fun. I mean, the bet sizes went up. I didn't have the money for a Hasbro life size cutout. I saw some people in the chat. I know you always tell people don't look in the chat.
No, go for it.
The dope behind me. Give your head a shake, pal. His school is amazing, and you're just jealous that you probably can't afford to have a school life size cutout behind you. All right.
I was trying to convince people that was actually Hasbula. So just saying, dude, you should have just ran with that. It's what it is. But yeah, no, you guys have been around for a long time. And obviously the fact that you guys are still around and it just continues to get better and better and bigger shows that you guys made the right decision in terms of starting to do the show. So, even on behalf of myself and everybody else, we're very thankful that you guys stuck around and continue to do what it do and be role models, right? Like I obviously look up to guys like yourself to be able to. Yeah, I remember before I even started my podcast, I hit you up. I'm like, dude, what do I need? How do I do this? And things like that. And you were definitely very helpful.
You've cut out a nice little spot for you. You got a nice little backdrop. You're doing it right over there, my friend.
I appreciate it, man. All right, let's get back to breaking down the cards here and not jerk each other off in front of everybody. Let's get into the first fight on the main card. We got a Dana White Contender Series making his debut on the goddamn pay-per-view. Michael Morales going up against Trevin Giles. The line is pretty much a pick'em now because earlier in the week, it was actually Michael Morales that was up around that minus 140 range. Money coming in on the UFC veteran, Trevin Giles. minus 115 on the Dana White Contender Series alum, and then minus 105 on Giles. I'll actually let you kick this one off. How do you feel about this matchup? Do you think the line is now correct, or do you think it was correct before with the Dana White Contender Series alum being the slight favorite? And then ultimately, who do you think ends up winning?
I actually think that the line was correct before.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I'm surprised by the line movement in this spot. Trevin Giles did his job. He showed up to the weigh-ins this morning. Looked good at 170 pounds. That's all good stuff for him. So maybe that's why like the most recent line move, like between this morning, I think it was like plus 120 when we did our show earlier in the week. So money keeps flooding in on Trevin Giles, but like I don't know, this Morales kid is 22 years old. He's got what they said on at least Contender Series. He's got like a judo background. He was able to land like 4 takedowns, and he looked pretty solid in that respect. He's got like a 5-inch reach advantage here. Like got crazy super long 79-inch reach. I think he's a good prospect. Now, is Trevin Giles too much for him in this debut on a pay-per-view? Or UFC jitters go? Like, we have to remember there's a full crowd here. I don't know what Michael Morales has done in his other fights, but I imagine he's never been in front of like 20,000 screaming fans either. So that's something I would take into account. That's why I haven't really placed a wager, because I don't exactly know how he's going to deal with with being at an event like this. It's tough for anybody, let alone like a 22-year-old making his UFC debut. But I think he's got some super serious talent. The stand-up is a little bit of a work in progress, but all the fundamentals are there. I'm picking him to win, but I don't think I'm going to get there from a betting perspective. What about you?
The Morales side, it was intriguing at first. But like it is quite disrespectful to make him a favorite against a guy in Giles who's fought way better competition. Won't have any UFC jitters. He's been in front of giant crowds in the past, and he has a decent skill set as well, right? Like his striking game is legit especially with that jab that he has, very fast, very quick with his hands, and he's able to get in and out pretty well, especially when he's like really on his game. The issue has kind of been like he does start to slow down later in fights, and that could possibly give him some issues in this spot against Morales, who seems like he can go a solid 15 minutes. I'm interested to see how Giles looks at 170 pounds, though. Like the weigh-in, he looked fine, man. Like he even tweeted out a picture or put an IG out even before the weigh-in started, saying, "I'm ready to go 170.4, baby. Let's hop on the scale and just get me rehydrated again." So it all comes down to how he looks at 170 pounds, what it's going to do to his body. I think it was maybe 10 weeks ago that he put up a picture saying that he was 207 pounds. You got to cut 37 pounds to get down to make weight. But it seemed like he was doing it gradually. He was posting progress pictures, and he was doing it properly. He looks stripped. He looks shredded. Apparently this move down to 170 pounds was something, in the talks for a long time for him. But now they felt like it was a perfect time to do so. If he is able to get off on his jab, and if he doesn't have a crazy cardio dump, especially something that we have to worry about with the weight cut that he had, I think he touches up Morales for the majority of 10 to 12 minutes and could take home a decision in the spot. It's just his durability and his gas tank that gives me issues in terms of wanting to back him and actually bet him in this spot. I'll make him my pick. He is my prediction to win this fight via decision. But man, the Morales kid, like he got the huge rub off of Dana White during that episode. Like I think as he was awarding him the contract, he goes, "This kid's going to be a superstar. This kid's going to be great." All that. Like he was just absolutely, just loving the kid. I will say that some of the regional tape was hilarious because he's fighting just bums out there. He's not fighting anybody that really deserved to be in there. But there was one fight that was in a gym. I'm not sure if you saw this one, but they're like holding the cage together as the fight is going on. Like they go from one panel of the fence to another panel of the fence, and you just see a couple people shift over and just start holding the fence up. Like even the padding on the sides of the cage, they weren't even on correctly. Like it looked like a death trap, not an octagon or anything. It looked like a death trap, but he got his hand raised there. I believe he knocked out that kid as well. But that's what he's known for, right? Knockouts, good, has some good striking, good power. Apparently he was a part of the Ecuadorian wrestling team as well. He showcased some of that obviously in his Contender Series fight. let's see how much it comes into play here against a guy in Giles who I believe will be quicker to the punch, but for how long? And that's the main concern that I have. So Giles is the pick. Would have been nicer at plus money, but now that it's hanging around evens, again, I'm a little bit skeptical. Like I said, I believe he should be the slight favorite, just given his resume and his experience and all that. But I'm still skeptical in terms of this 170-pound weight cut for him. Let's see him do it once, and then after that, we'll assess it and see if this is the actual weight class for him. All right, let's keep moving along here. We got 4 more fights to get through. Next up, we got Cody Stamann going up against Said Nurmagomedov. In terms of odds, minus 195 on Nurmagomedov and plus 165 the return on Cody Stamann. I got in nice and early here on Cody Stamann. I thought he's a great spot. I got in at plus 200, even at plus 165. I think it's a damn good spot. Said, he is not of the Nurmagomedov that you guys are expecting. If you guys haven't seen this guy fight before, he is more of the Magomed Sharapov. Likes to throw spinning shit, likes to strike, likes to play on the feet, but doesn't do anything crazy, right? Like obviously he has a couple of early finishes on his record. Mark Striegel, I believe, was one of them. Ricardo Ramos was the other guy. But if this fight plays out for 15 minutes, he likes to dance on the outside and just try to slowly out-volume his opponents from the outside. I just don't think that Cody Stamann is going to get stuck at that kickboxing range. I think he's going to crash the pocket. I think he's going to look to strike, and then we'll look for takedowns after that. I think he's the better wrestler. I think people will burn me at the stake for saying an American wrestler is better than a Dagestani at wrestling or Sambo, whatever you want to call it. But I think that Cody Stamann will be the one that lands more takedowns here and will likely be the one that attempts more takedowns in this spot. I think he is successful with them. He may not hold him down for extended periods of time, but I think those the little bit of control time that he continues to accumulate with every single takedown is going to start to add up. And hopefully that's what the judges start seeing compared to some of the pitter-patter strikes that might be coming from the outside from Said here. So as long as Stamann does not stay at kickboxing range, I think he wins this fight, and he has been reliable to go for multiple takedowns if he needs to, and I feel like that's the case for this fight here. So, Cody by decision. That's always his path to victory, right? He hasn't really finished anybody, and I don't see him finishing this guy in Said Nurmagomedov. And last thing about the weigh-in, Said, the third last guy to weigh in, waits a nice full hour into the weigh-ins to finally trot his way to the scale. Looked fine on the scale to me. It didn't seem like he was compromised by any means. But just felt like that needed to be pointed out. Stamann decision. Let's fucking go. Paulie Shags, what do you like?
I got Stamann money line.
Let's go.
The other day, which I wish I caught your plus 200 there at opens, but yeah, no, I kind of saw all the same things. And like Stamann's durability has held up throughout all of his fights. He hasn't taken on too many super flashy strikers, I suppose. And that's how I would categorize Said Nurmagomedov. Yeah, you said Zabit. He's basically got like Zabit, but not even the Zabit wrestling. I don't think, at least. But yeah, this fight really comes down to, it's like, being in the big cage may help Said a little bit. I will say fair is fair on that respect, but if you're Stamann, you got to crash the pocket. You got to get this up against the fence. You're not going to win this fight fighting at range. But I saw Said, especially against Rowney Barcelos, like he got taken down, not really because his takedown defense was bad. It was throwing spinning techniques and, leaving himself vulnerable for the takedown. And that's really why he lost that fight against Rowney. So I'm with you. Stamann by decision is a good look as well, but I'm just on the money line. Maybe we get down there and Stamann's able to like fish up a sub. Not particularly thinking that's how it goes down, but yeah, I'm with you. I think there's value on the dog here, and I think the Nurmagomedov name is like propping up Said's number because people think that he's from the same, clan.
It's called Russian tax, Paul. It's called Russian tax, and it was absolutely just.
He's not that right. He's not the right type of Russian. He's not the kind of guy that I usually sink all of my money into. He's quite the contrary, to be perfectly honest. So, yeah, Stamann money line for me as well.
Let's get it. All right, let's move on to the next fight here. Michel Pereira going up against Andre Fialho, minus 280 on Pereira, plus 225 the return on Fialho. A lot of confidence in Pereira from the UFC to put him in this spot. Third fight on the main card. They expect him to go out there and do what he does, and that's entertain the fans. I'll actually let you kick this one off, though. How do you feel like Fialho does in his debut in this big spot, right? You're on the main card of a big pay-per-view. If you go out there and get a big knockout victory, you automatically stamp your name in that division, and people are going to want to watch you fight again. Do you think he has the chops to do that, though?
I kind of feel like anytime this guy's really stepped up to the big leagues, he's definitely faltered and seemed out of place. Even like his biggest name win, I guess, in his MMA career would be James Vick, and we all know the story with James Vick. The guy's,
inflatable. What is it? The inflatable tube man?
Yeah, the guy just can't. The guy had no chin, and that's the way that fight played out. Fialho was able to just kind of barge forward and put him out of his misery in round two, but. A lot of his other wins, he's kind of beating absolute nobodies. I watched the Chris Curtis fight, and it looked like because with Pereira, the concern is he doesn't really have 3-round cardio, particularly if he fights at a high pace. But it didn't look like Fialho really has 3-round cardio either from the tape that I've done. I think Michel Pereira wins, but here's the caveat is. For a guy who does backflips in the middle of the cage, a guy who throws knees against Diego Sanchez and gets disqualified, the one against Nico Price last time out where he did the backflip and then switched into mounts. If Nico Price, complained a little bit more, because he did complain a little bit. If he complains a little bit more and pretends that he was really, really compromised from that backflip, and then they end up calling it a disqualification. Well, you lose the bet. And so a guy who is wild and crazy, and trust me, there's nobody out there who loves Michel Pereira as much as I do. I love him. I actually I was telling Cody on the show this week, it's I want this guy to be in fights with no rules. Let's just, these are just circus fights. We bring in the most entertaining people and watch Michel do backflips and crazy shit inside the octagon. We're here for entertainment at the end of the day. I don't think he's going to be a rising contender. I don't think he's ever going to have a UFC title. I want to be entertained, and this guy has one of the best concoctions of skill sets to entertain us. But yeah, when he's minus 265, minus 270, it's now you start factoring in what if he screws up and gets himself DQ'd? Well, you're going to lose that bet. So I don't think you can touch the money line whatsoever. I'm going to pick him to win because he has showed a much more composed strategy to his fights most recently, besides obviously the Nico Price backflip into mount with a little bit of a head kick or a downed opponent head kick mixed into the mix there. But I like Michel Pereira. I'm not going to pick against him, but I think it's really, really risky business to be parlaying him up based on one, his cardio, two, his the fact that he's complete. He can at any time he can go into absolute YOLO mode, and YOLO mode gets you DQ'd. Particularly in California, I wouldn't be surprised if they seem to have a little bit of a tighter ship there in California as a commission, so they may not be too happy with some of his antics.
I'm hoping that he doesn't DQ this guy on the a pay-per-view main card. It'll be nice to see him mix in a little bit of that. But I do want to shout out my guy Alexander in the comment section here, or the live chat. He stole the exact word out of my mouth. Maturing, and I feel like we're slowly seeing that from Pereira a little bit. From going back to his what was the Daddy Roberts fight all the way up until the Nico Price fight. Seeing this guy go for takedowns in the third round is brought a smile to my face. Let's put it that way. He's just not going out there to entertain at times. He still wants to get the W, and I feel like we could see him do that in this spot as well. I still think we'll see some of those antics early in this fight. That's when he is best. His speed, his agility, his movement. That's when it's at his best in rounds 1 and maybe, a round and a half or so. Then it starts to fall off. Then you see the maturity in his game where he doesn't just focus on the antics and all that. He does try to go for takedowns. He tries to get into the clinch, tries to make it dirtier and make it optically more appealing to the judges. And I feel like that's what's going to happen here in Fialho. I will say this. I felt pretty decent about the Pereira by decision. And then your boy Cody, or our boy Cody, brought up some pretty damn good points last time around where he feels like Fialho just doesn't have the durability to deal with some of the power and agility from Pereira earlier in this fight. But as this fight starts to wear on, I feel like it's going to get harder for Pereira to put this guy away. Like you touched on, Fialho has a questionable gas tank, and that could come into play in this spot because, for people that don't know, Fialho actually took the fight on short notice. It was supposed to happen last week when fucking who was it? Salikov was supposed to fight Pereira. Salikov pulls out. In steps Fialho. I believe Fialho's coach tests positive for COVID. They pushed the fight back 1 week. So we got to wonder where he's at in that aspect as well with his cardio and his full preparation. But I feel like we're going to see Pereira touch him up with the speed early in this fight, then just put together a full MMA game in the second and third round and take him a decision in this spot. I feel like if you are looking at Fialho at all, you got to look at the KO, right? That seems to be his only path to victory in this spot. He has some decent power in his hands. If anybody saw his last win against Stefan Sekulic, former UFC fighter, the dude absolutely blasted him with an elbow in the clinch and flatlined the dude. But Fialho KO is sitting at plus 400. But I'm liking Pereira by decision, which is currently sitting around plus 200 as well. So I like Pereira. Seems like you like Pereira as well. Not a good debut spot for Fialho, but it is what it is. At least we get Pereira on the card. All right. Co-main event time. I'm talking about the first title fight on the card. We got new champion, we should say, Brandon Moreno coming in at minus 180, plus 160, the return on former champion Deiveson Figueiredo. I believe this is the first time in history of the MMA where two guys have fought each other 3 straight times consecutively. And for good reason. I think that they should be fighting for 3 times, right? The first fight goes to a draw. I feel as though one of those judges, Junichiro Kamijo, failed to score round 5 correctly, and that fight more than likely would have gone towards Figueiredo, as one judge had already given him the fight 48-46. We might not have even gotten the rematch if Deiveson got his hand raised that night, right? Now here we are almost a year and a half later going down for the third time. But again, they delivered in that first fight. It was a fun fight. Even if Figueiredo got his hand raised that night, I'm sure people would have been like, okay, Moreno might just need to take another fight or two and these guys will likely fight again. But they get the rematch, they get the draw, and then Moreno goes out there and absolutely, again, just dominates him essentially and gets that finish later in that fight. But I don't know about you, Paul. That didn't look like Figueiredo to me. That looked like a wannabe. That looked like somebody that just put on a Figueiredo jumpsuit and jumped into that cage. That did not look like the God of War that we're used to seeing. Some people are attributing to him regressing. Some people saying that he's getting too old. Some people are saying it's the weight cut. All of that, I think, will be, resolved tomorrow, especially considering that he probably looked the best he ever did on the scales this morning at 124 pounds, had a ton of energy on the scale, even jogged his way to the scale, and was the second guy to weigh in after his opponent, Brandon Moreno. So I think that was kind of a message you wanted to show to people. And we've all seen that picture floating around the webs right now where he looks absolutely shredded with those 2 other guys. And great. It looks phenomenal. But now bring that shit to the cage with you. I mean, there's a huge difference in terms of how we saw his demeanor in the first fight and the second fight. Again, I'll always shout out my guy John Kelly, who brought this to the Twitter timelines. You see the first fight, he starts off the fight with a spinning back kick that lands cleanly to the body, and from there continues to establish his dominance with his power, especially. Then in the second fight, he lets Moreno lead the dance. He doesn't really do too much there. So I'm hoping fire once again, and he can go in there and make Moreno respect him once again by putting that power on him. And I feel like we could see that this weekend, which is why I actually backed Deiveson Figueiredo here for 2 units at plus 150. Think it's a damn good spot. I think the line should be closer to a pick'em. Like, there's no way you're telling me that Deiveson in the first fight went from minus 330 to the second fight where he went to minus 210, and now all of a sudden he's a plus 150 underdog. Again, I get the fight went the way that it did the second time, but this is one of those, if the fight played out 10 times, how many different ways does it play out? We've seen it play out where Deiveson likely should have won a decision the first time. Now we see Moreno dominate him the second time. How likely is it that he dominates him the second time in a row in this third fight? I don't know. I don't see it happening. I see this fight going the full 5 rounds. I see Davison winning it off of his bigger shots, big pressure. It would be nice to get a finish, but it's going to be very difficult to put away a guy like Brandon Moreno, who's taken every single shot and the kitchen sink, even in that first fight. So it'll be difficult to see that happen. But I still believe in Davison. Say what you want about his cardio issues. The guy won the 5th round in that last fight. I've seen some people say that he had an arm injury there. But again, you can put some output. You can put something together for Moreno to win that 5th round. He didn't have it that night. Davison did. I think he can replicate it again tomorrow night. I'm going Davison Figueiredo and you plus 150, plus 450 on the decision prop as well, which I think is a damn good line. Give me and you for Dos Toguera, Davison Figueiredo. How do you like this one?
I'm picking Davison Figueiredo, but I kind of think I'm kind of torn about whether this is like a 50-50 type of situation or whether the current lines are close to correct and maybe it's like a 60-40, because I do think that Brandon Moreno, his durability, his pace, his ability, his cardio, his ability to fight 5 rounds and go deep, is a bit of a problem for Figueiredo, who is going to land big, strong, powerful shots. And I guess he did win round 5 against them, between them in the first time around. And obviously, whatever, the judge didn't get it right. But I think it's about right, the price right now. Because my biggest concern about Figueiredo, as an aging man myself, and in no way am I comparing my fat ass to Davison Figueiredo. Don't get it wrong, but 34 years old in the bantam or in the flyweight division. It's like you see it's like a story as old as time. It's just like Demetrius Johnson. It's like starts to get into his mid 30s and he starts to fall off a cliff. It's such a young man's game. And Brandon Moreno has been around for so long. He was in the UFC, was released by the UFC, came back. He's still only 28 years old. I think he is kind of skill for skill, power for power. I like Davison Figueiredo. I think he's just such a dynamic striker, a dynamic finisher at 125 pounds, and a guy that I think kind of saved the division to a degree that, it was on the way out the door. Obviously, yeah. Henry Cejudo saved the division, but Davison made it interesting because, like, oh my God, look at this little guy. Like, what a little freak. He's so strong. He's, icing fools. But yeah, Moreno's durability and his cardio and his well-roundedness makes it a very, very difficult fight. So if I was forced to make a play, it's actually Davison Figueiredo money line. The plus 150, there's probably some plus 160s out there. There's a couple plus 160s out there right now. I think that is likely the value, but I could see it being, like a 60-40 type of proposition. This is a close fight anyway you shake it. I wouldn't take Brandon Moreno at the money lines of like minus 200 that are out there. That's what I can guarantee that much. I don't think I'm going to get there from a betting perspective. Obviously, we'll be watching live and we'll see if we can jump on something there.
For sure. It's just hilarious to me that like the people that are claiming Figueiredo was untouchable at one time and now all of a sudden all over the Brandon Moreno side. After one fight, again, every fight turns out differently. Not all the time you're going to get the exact same fight. So we'll see how it turns out this time around. And we'll see if, the teaming up with Henry Cejudo and Team Fight Ready will do anything positive for Figueiredo in this spot. Didn't work out the best for Weili Zhang when she did it. Let's see if Davison Figueiredo can switch that around and come out with the dub this weekend. All right, we're just about to hop into the main event here. Another time for me to remind the 170 live viewers that we currently have. Make sure you guys hit that like and hit that subscribe, and then show my guy Paul some love as well. Hit him on the Twitters at Paul Shag, and then obviously if you guys don't already, make sure you guys check out the Dog or Pass podcast. I believe that's every Wednesday, right? You guys drop that
every Wednesday. We have people who ask every single week, and it's just like, we've been releasing the show. We record at the same time
Wednesday, folks.
It's within like an hour or two, depending on a number of production things and stuff like that.
Trust me, I know what you're talking about. All right, let's get into the main event here. Francis Ngannou plus 125, Ciryl Gane minus 145. What a fucking fight, Paul. I haven't been this excited for a heavyweight fight since I was telling Cody the other day. Junior Dos Santos versus Cain Velasquez 2, specifically number 2, just because of how the first one played out. We had 1 minute of action, but we know how that fight obviously played out now, where Cain Velasquez beats on him for about 50 minutes of time and takes years off of Junior Dos Santos there. But I feel like this fight is going to be closer than those two fights ended up playing out, with, you know, near misses from Francis Ngannou with those giant bombs that he has, that he calls hands, and then Cyril Gane obviously doing what he has to do on the outside. I'm not going to take forever to break this fight down because it is the easiest fight to break down on the card. Cyril's fists go brrr, or Cyril Gane stays on the outside, chips away at him, and either finishes him late in this fight or gets that decision victory. I more so am leaning towards Cyril Gane finessing his way to either a 4th or 5th round TKO stoppage or even a submission. I'm hoping that he goes back into his bag of tricks and looks for a submission in this spot, late takedowns. You know, people can say what they want about Stipe, or the Stipe fight for Francis Ngannou. Oh, he looks ever improved. He does. Don't get me wrong. The guy's throwing jabs now. Finally, the guy's jabbing his way to, you know, throwing those big strikes, decent leg kicks as well, which I think could play a factor into this fight if he tries to lay on them a little bit more early in this fight. And then the ever acclaimed fucking stuffing of the takedown. Oh my God, he pushed the head down and he stopped the takedown. Everybody's rushing to the betting windows to say this guy is going to reign the division for a long time, which could absolutely happen if he gets past Cyril Gane. In my opinion, Gane is the only guy that you can put up against him that has a chance of beating him and evading that big shot. He might eat a couple, but I feel with his movement, his footwork, all that type of stuff, he should be able to take away the brunt of that impact and hopefully still be alive and then go from there and pretty much chip away at him. It's not like we haven't seen Ngannou go the full 25 minutes and look like he's about to heel over and die. You know what I mean? We saw him go the 50 minutes against Derek Lewis. Say what you want about his mentality going into that fight, is what it is. I like Cyril Gane here. Best fighter in the heavyweight division, skill-wise, and I think that shows tomorrow night. I have a play on Cyril Gane at minus 118. I also have pokes on his round 4 and round 5 as well at plus 1,700 and plus 2,500. Paulie Shags, lay it on me. Hug those nuts. Show me what you want, or show me what you like for Francis Ngannou.
I think here's what really comes out. I love both of these guys. I've always so I backed them pretty much every single time. I believe every single time either one of them has fought. Gane's had some like pretty crooked numbers that have been like next to unbettable in some of his matchups. But I told myself a long time ago that if you are going to give me plus money on Francis Ngannou against any person on earth, and these two guys are wearing 4-ounce gloves, that I'm going to take that plus money. So I'm on Francis Ngannou money line plus 133, Francis Ngannou by knockout plus 175. I think a lot of the lead up to this is maybe like fabricated. I'm not entirely like, it seems like the, you know, them being training partners, and Francis is kind of like shitting on a whole bunch of it too. It's like, they were like, we weren't really training partners. He's like, we had like 6 sessions together, man. It's like, don't stop trying to pretend that like we crafted each other and we made each other who we were. He's just like, I was already living in Vegas, and like the UFC probably cringes a little bit because they love these storylines, obviously. Trust me, I'm not going to be shocked on Saturday night if Cyril Gane goes out there. He fights the perfect fight. It's like the bull versus the matador, right? I just think the matador is getting fucked up in this situation. I think he's going to try to slip, and the bull's about to rip. And I don't know, Francis came in at 257. He looked lean, mean. I don't think necessarily it has to be in round 1. In round 2 against Stipe Miocic, the second Stipe Miocic 2. He still had power in those hands. Even like their first fight, he landed like a 4th round shot that still stumbled Stipe. And I thought, you know, a lot of people really shit on him, and his mentality for that Derek Lewis fight went down the absolute shitter. But I thought him being able to go 5 rounds and not quit on himself against Stipe Miocic was super, super important. So I wouldn't be shocked to see like a Gane by decision. I wouldn't be surprised to see Gane late. But I think in the first 2 rounds, Francis Ngannou is just going to land a heater. I mean, Cyril, obviously Ngannou throws a lot less volume, but Volkov landed like 110 significant strikes against Gane. If you take 110 significant strikes from Ngannou, who would never actually throw that many because he would be healed over and dead, don't get me wrong, but I think he is hittable. You saw in the JDS fight up against the cage, he took a shot, he took it really, really well, but Ngannou hits so damn hard and he's so damn fast and athletic in those first 2 rounds that I'm backing my boy again. And we'll find out on Saturday night. So stoked, love both guys. I think both of them are great champions for the heavyweight division. A lot of intriguing fights in the future. And there's no guarantee that we don't see these guys run it back at some point in the future, depending on how everything plays out with contracts and all of that stuff. But it's a great time for the heavyweight division. And I will say this right now. Both of these guys are going to kill Jon Jones.
Oh, yeah.
Jon Jones doesn't want the smoke from either one of these guys. That's why he's been off for like a year and a half now. He was never a power puncher at 205 pounds. He's putting on a lot of mass. Who knows what he's up to put on all of this mass? So a lot of hard work. Obviously, he's taking his his strength and conditioning very seriously, I would imagine. But I think Jon Jones is going to be watching this fight on Saturday night and goes, "Oh my God!" Calling his dietitian, "Get me back to 205." Yeah. A lot of his advantages that he had over people, it really came down to like reach, his ability to, the little push kicks to the kneecaps and long arms at 205. He had that advantage over everybody. Both of these guys, you're right in punching range when you're throwing shots with these guys, and I'm not sure he's going to be able to take it. I know this isn't about Jon Jones, but
no, but it's relevant though. It is absolutely
he's
relevant.
probably next.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see. Again, that he's been out. Like February is going to be exactly 2 years since this guy has been in the cage, and again, I don't know what's going to happen with the contracts and all that stuff. That is a little bit of a question mark in regards to Francis, if he wins or loses, how that's going to play out. And then Cyril Gane, obviously, what he wants to do after that. But man, that press conference, just going back to that, was one of the weirdest press conferences I've ever seen. And I think Dana was just absolutely hates it when the guys that are up there, especially when all of them up there, their primary language is not English. I think his brain just short circuits and he's just like, what's happening right now? Like seeing Francis and Cyril just arguing with each other and then coming to a mutual agreement afterwards was probably the funniest shit I've ever seen. He's like, I think it was Cyril that's like, I think we need to redefine the term teammate. I'm like, okay, like, thanks for being so civil, Cyril.
Who was that guy who was
Schluck, like, the schmuck over there? Not the schmo, but the fucking.
You better watch his back walking around Anaheim, California. I'll tell you that much. I wouldn't want an angry Francis Ngannou. That guy's got to keep his head down for the next few days because Francis seems like a pretty nice guy, but there's the twitch there. When that twitch goes off, bad things happen.
Exactly. But regardless, we are still going to get a fucking phenomenal fight this weekend, man. I can't wait. The top 2 fights absolutely sell the card in itself. Luckily for us Canadians, the pay-per-view price is still the same, not compared to the $74.99 that the USD people are paying. But we'll see who's going to be paying for the pay-per-view come this weekend. Regardless, I already made my purchase. I'm just saying that I made my purchase. I do not want to miss any bit of this fight or this fight card. So I'm going to be making sure that I'm good to go with that. All right, last thing, and then we'll sign off here. Lock of the night plays or your most confident play on the card. I'm personally going with a little bit of a parlay here. There's 2 spots that I really like. I took Harani Barcelos when he was closer to minus 330. I put him together with the Jack Della Maddalena and Pete Rodriguez fight to not go to decision. The odds on that are minus 170. I got $800 on that. That's my lock of the night play. What do you like in here, Paul?
I mean, what I've got the most money on out of all of them, that's how we'll classify the quote unquote lock. Francis Ngannou, I mean, money line plus 133. I got the plus 175, plus 165. Seems to be the best price on Ngannou by KO. We'll play it a little bit easy. Maybe there's a Anthony Bumbleton, submission in the works here, or something like that. But I think Francis is gonna. I liked what I saw from the weigh-ins. I think Francis is gonna get it done tomorrow night. I'm feeling pretty good about it. Everything, all of the narratives and other shit that I had heard leading up to this week is like, it kind of seems to be, it seems like it was all a whole bunch of noise. Like Francis seems pretty focused. He looked like he was in good shape. UFC, yeah, we were talking about, I don't know if we were talking about off the top of the show or before the show, but they got this NFT project, and Francis happens to be a fixture in that, which is like, I don't know if the UFC would have put him in that position with Dapper Labs as like, if they were trying to get rid of him. So that seems kind of weird. I think a lot of it was like all hype to try to hype up a fight between two really, really nice, gentle giants who have nothing but respect for each other. But Ngannou plus money is an auto play. It always will be an auto play, and that's just how I am.
There you go. And I got to shout out my guy Kaiser here because I cannot unsee this now. Paul Shag looks like the Canadian Tuivasa.
Maybe.
I can't unsee it, bro. Do the he does this like his chin back type of thing. God damn it. All right. I can't unsee it now. I apologize, Paul, but now you are the Canadian Tuivasa to me. But even though you are the Canadian Shui, the Shuivasa, there we go, exactly. And he likes himself a Shui, so it all fits, it all works out.
He's going to be doing one when Francis Ngannou gets the job done.
People are trying to get me to do a Shui bet with Cody for Moreno and Figueiredo. I'm like, I don't do Shuis, dog.
Cody's always trying to get Cody's, and that's why I knew that he would take it with me. Is that Cody's always trying to get that minus number on the Shui bet. So if I ever have like a dog. If I ever have a dog take, he always, in fairness, one time he took Justin Gaethje against Habib as a shoey bet, which was just an all-time blunder for Cody Saptic. But we love him, and he's the GOAT for many reasons.
Absolutely. I got to figure out what kind of bet I'm doing with him. I want to DM with him. One idea I had was like, our show usually lasts like an hour and 40-ish minutes or so. I'm like, I'll do it. If I lose, I will do a shot of something every 15 or 20 minutes. That's what I'll do. I'm not doing a shoe out of it or drink a beer out of a shoe. I can't do any of that shit. You can do a shoey if you lose, but I'm not doing no shoey. I will take a shot every 15 or 20 minutes for the next episode that we do together. I'm hoping that he agrees to that because I would be more than happy to do that. So we'll see how that goes down. All right, Paul. I really appreciate you. Really appreciate you bringing your boy Hasbullah to the show as well. I'm sure he's going with Francis as well. Any last minute things you want to say here before we hop off the stream? Then I can wrap this thing up.
Not really. Check out Dogger Pass every single week. Wednesday nights around 7 p.m. Eastern, it usually drops. Check out that with me and my boy Cody. If you know Manpreet, then you've been following him. You know who Cody is, who pops in on the pay-per-view cards. At this point, he used to do them every single week. Check out Dogger Pass podcast and support the entire community because sometimes there's a lot of people. We're all trying to fight against each other within this. We're all in it together. I know people think it's completely lame, but it is really actually us against the books. Like I'm happy for other people when they win. I would prefer to win myself, but I'm never really actively rooting against other people's bets. I don't want to see people lose. Like, the sports books are making enough money, so we need to get what's ours.
Exactly. And thanks to you guys and everybody else that's providing the betting content for us. We're trying to make sure the bookies are the ones on the losing end more often than not. All right. On behalf of myself and Paul, we appreciate you guys checking out the stream. Tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern, I'll be doing a fight day live chat. I'll be with you guys for about an hour or so, taking all last minute questions, comments, and concerns just to help you guys make any wagers that you guys want to make. And and talk about knock on wood, any late cancellations on fights too. We can talk about that as well. Appreciate everybody checking us out. Hit that like and subscribe on the way out. Follow my guy Paul on Twitter at Paul Shag, and obviously follow the Dogger Pass podcast as well. We'll see you guys next week. War. Let's go with Dos Teguera. War, the god of war. Give some Figueiredo. Let's fucking go.